Hi, and welcome everybody to the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel. I'm your host, Ross Benjamin. Like every Thursday afternoon, I am joined by Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com and Mr. Kyle Hunter of gamblersWORLD.net. Myself, also of gamblersWORLD.net. They are our sponsor. And by the way, folks, if you go to gamblersWORLD.net right now and you buy either a 3-day or a 7-day subscription plan. 3 days goes for $99, 7 days for $175. We'll give you an additional $50 in free credit that you could use toward any future purchases. And nice deal there. Again, folks, 3-day or 7-day package, $99 for the 3-day, $175 for the 7-day. With that purchase, you'll get an extra $50 in credit in your account that you could use at any time on anyone you wish. So there you have it. And
Nice.
Doug, how are you?
I'm doing well, and hey, here we go. As I was just saying, the what a great weekend for college football. Okay, I mean, we've been kind of waiting for this. I mean, there's been nothing wrong with what's gone on, but now we have some, really meaningful games that have, deep consequences for both the winners and the losers. And of course, it will continue on as we go along. But this is an exciting week. And it's going to be from the early morning till, or depending where you live, from early morning until late at night. So it's going to be really good.
I'm looking forward to it myself. I'm just staring at your Notre Dame shirt and
Yes.
purposely worn just to perturb the guy below, Mr. Hunter, who's a huge Ohio State fan. And you can see he's sporting that Ohio State cap. Kyle, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. I share Doug's sentiments on the fact that this is just a fantastic weekend for college football, kind of culminating there in the evening with that Buckeyes and Fighting Irish game, which is going to be a fantastic one. Maybe we'll have to have some kind of side bet or something like that, Doug. We'll see. I think 3 is a fair line for that game, but I'm super excited for the Buckeyes and Notre Dame game. But look, that's just one of the marquee games for Saturday. It's going to be, like you said, start to finish. You can't have a to-do list this Saturday. You got to watch the games.
Absolutely. I already told my wife, but she'll have a to-do list anyway. And once again, I will ignore it. Anyway, that's why I'm always in hot water, Doug. We're going to be looking at 3 games today. Doug will be covering Memphis at Missouri, an intriguing matchup, non-conference matchup. Kyle will be looking at the Pac-12 opener for both Oregon State and Washington State. And I'll be looking at the Mississippi State and South Carolina games. So 3 real good games on hand. Before we get to those picks, friendly reminder, folks, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please take a second to do so. It costs you absolutely nothing. There's no charge. It's absolutely free, and there's no hidden agenda. And you click on the WC logo you see in the bottom right-hand corner of your video box if you're watching on your PC, or that subscribe button right underneath your video box if you're watching on your mobile device. That gets you subscribed. And I'm going to ask you to take one small step further. Go into your YouTube settings and click on that alert notification bell for the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel. And upon us releasing any of our podcasts on this channel, you'll be notified immediately. And all of you who have subscribed, we can't thank you enough, folks, because without you, this channel and this program does not survive. And it's continuing to grow, and we couldn't be more happier. And we're doing our best to put out the best quality product every day to make you a smarter sports bettor today than you were yesterday. So let's get right to the meat and potatoes here. Mr. Upstone, you're the leadoff hitter. You're the Ricky Henderson today. Memphis versus Missouri. I almost said at Missouri. The game is in St. Louis. Virtually a home game for Missouri. But Missouri coming off that emotional win last week, Doug, upsetting Kansas State, then number 15 Kansas State at home, 61-yard field goal on the final play of regulation time to win that game. And they're taking on a Memphis team that not a lot of people are giving a lot of attention to. Usually a very strong team out of the AAC, but they're stepping up in class here. They are 3-0. What do you got for us, Doug?
Yeah, like I said, both these teams are undefeated, and this is going to be on ESPNU on Saturday night at 7:30 Eastern. As you mentioned, the Missouri upset, and it came by making the longest field goal in the history of the SEC at 61 yards, and then it was a walk-off winner, no less. Memphis was supposed to have an easy time with Navy last week. That was not the case. They only won by 4 points as 11.5-point favorites. Now, Missouri, I watched the game from start to finish because it was actually my free play, one of the free plays I had here at Gamblers World last week. And I missed it. But Missouri was more athletic than I had anticipated, especially at wide receiver. If you saw Luther Burden III, the kid is a flat-out stud at wide receiver. Brady Cook, the quarterback, he was actually a little more accurate than I had anticipated, or at least remembered, from seeing him the previous year. The Mizzou defense has a lot of quickness. Secondary, though, can be beat. They will give up some yards from their standpoint, especially without a steady pass rush. The Tigers from Memphis, they look familiar, for how they have been for probably a decade, rushing for over 183 yards, passing for more than 265 yards. Now, Coach Ryan Silverfield is in his fourth season, and though Memphis actually plays a similar style to what they did under Mike Norvell, who is now the Florida State head coach, the one thing that's different is they are more prone to 3-and-outs than during the Norvell years, because Silverfield evidently believes in trying to create more big plays, especially with the passing game. The defense isn't bad. It's a little more physical than I've seen more recently. Biggest key, though, in this encounter, guys, is the health of Cook at the quarterback position. He hyperextended his knee. He continued to play that game last week, and he threw for over 360 yards, so he looked good. But he's officially listed as day-to-day. So from that standpoint, that's something definitely to keep an eye on. On the surface, Missouri is the better team, coming from the better conference. But for me, this feels like a sell high, buy low matchup. The black-clad Tigers, coming off a huge victory, they have their SEC opener next week. The blue-clad Tigers, I think, will be more primed, coming off a kind of a lackluster effort, being able to take on an SEC foe, and get themselves, let's just say, a little bit more fired up for this particular situation. Also keep in mind that for Missouri, when they're a favorite in their most recent games, 2-10 against the spread, I'm going to take the Memphis Tigers plus the 6 over the Missouri Tigers.
There you go. Memphis plus the 6 over Missouri, and the game will be played in St. Louis, not on the campus of the University of Missouri, which is in Columbia. Yeah, you make a good point. I mean, you're coming off a huge upset win, emotional win, last second win over then, like I alluded to, number 15 Kansas State. You got your SEC opener up next against Vanderbilt. I don't know. It looks like a potential flat spot. Kyle, what do you think?
Well, guys, I don't think any of us here talk about locks. There are no locks in sports betting. And
No.
the people who do say that, it's just ridiculous. I will say there is one lock, and the Tigers are going to win this game. It was just low-hanging fruit. I had to say that one. The Tigers are going to win this game. My son would probably appreciate something like that. Maybe even my wife. We'll see. But I think Missouri is coming off that big win where there's dog to Kansas State. They're a team where Brady Cook was kind of doubted for a long time. I don't think Brady Cook's a great quarterback, but there's not a lot of great quarterbacks in the SEC. He's probably at this point at least better than half the quarterbacks in the SEC. Cook had a fantastic showing last week. Luther Burden's a really good player. 5-star recruit, sophomore. Theo Weiss is a good second guy as well. I think the status of Cook is really important because they don't really have a proven backup. That makes this game a little bit tricky. I will say Memphis is a high upside team with a good quarterback in Seth Hennigan. Hennigan's a big play quarterback. This team has been wildly inconsistent. I know that their coach, Silverfield, is kind of on the hot seat. Memphis has high expectations. The problem I have with Memphis, and I'm not saying I wouldn't bet Memphis here, but Memphis has played nobody so far this year. I mean, their strength of schedule by Sagarin is 238th. There's 133 teams in FBS. Division I football. So you guys can do the math. Everybody watching here can do the math. There's a lot of teams in FCS football that have played a tougher strength of schedule so far this year than has Memphis. Memphis tried to give one away against Navy. They did their best to lose that game, it seemed. I think this is a tricky game to bet because Memphis is stepping up in competition, but situational handicapping, this is a good spot for Memphis for sure, and a bad spot for Missouri. I'm going to give the slightest of leans to the under in this game. I think this is a really tough game to bet. I think both teams pretty good defensively, not giving up big plays. So Memphis might have a bit harder time breaking those big plays. Missouri, Cook not being 100%. I'm going to lean to the under. I understand where you're coming from with the situational play, though.
Yep. So Kyle has a lean. Let's not get carried away. It's a lean, folks, on Memphis and Missouri to go under the total of 51.5. Our official play from Doug Upstone is on the Memphis Tigers, plus the 6 over the Missouri Tigers. So he's going to take the blue-clad Tigers over the black-clad Tigers. Anyway, now that we got that out of the way and confused the hell out of everybody, including myself, we'll get to Kyle's game. Kyle, Oregon State and Washington State. Oregon State is the ranked team in the matchup. Washington State is 3-0. They did have a nice win at home against Wisconsin. I don't know how big a win that is or what kind of quality win that will be. We'll know in a couple weeks is where I'm going with that to see how Wisconsin fares in their Big Ten schedule. But Oregon State right now is a 3-point favorite, and the total is 59. What do you got for us, Kyle?
Yeah, this is a good game, too. This is kind of one of those sneaky good games that not as many people will talk about, but Washington State has outperformed expectations by quite a bit. And Oregon State's a really good team. I think everybody knew they'd be a good team, but Jonathan Smith's a really good head coach that's kind of flown under the radar somehow. 33-22 against the spread, 16-10 against the spread on the road. Now he is 14-6 against the spread on the road as a underdog, 2-4 against the spread as a favorite. So they're kind of in a weird role because you guys remember when he first came to Oregon State, that team was really bad. So they were a dog in a lot of games. They were covering the spread as a dog. Now they're kind of in a different spot. Oregon State has 12 sacks already so far this year. They've only allowed 1 sack. The plus 11 sack margin is best in the country. Oregon State's offensive line is better than most people realize. The question is, Washington State, can they block well enough on offense to keep Cam Ward upright here? Because Ward has played really well, and Arbuckle, their new offensive coordinator, the young guy, has done a tremendous job with helping this offense. Washington State's offense is not really a huge play offense. They don't take really deep shots downfield. It's more of a quick pass offense. So that would be their hope in thinking that they can keep the pass rush off them. DJ Uiagalelei, I'm just going to go with DJU for most of this here, but DJU has been pretty inconsistent. We don't know exactly what his floor and ceiling are pretty wide apart. You don't exactly know what you're going to get from DJU. I think he didn't play very well last week against San Diego State, 14 for 30 with 2 picks. San Diego State's not the same defense they used to be either. That's not that really, really good defense. Brady Hoke's team is really not very good at this point. So I think the line has moved up so much that I have to make a small play here on the under. We've got 59. Neither team plays terribly fast, especially Oregon State. Oregon State's going to run the ball as much as they can with Martinez and Fenwick. I do think they'll have success, but even if they move the ball down the field, it's going to take a while, I think, especially with the new clock rules. And like I said, Washington State not taking a lot of deep shots. I understand, that this line may have started a bit low, but I think it's moved too high at the 59. So I'm not going to take a side here. I'm going to go with under 59.
All right. So Kyle likes Oregon State and Washington State under the total of 59. Yeah, Oregon State a 26-9 win last week over San Diego State. I believe they were somewhere around a 24.5-point favorite in that game. So not exactly a tremendous performance against, like Kyle touched upon. San Diego State is not the Aztecs of old. They're an average team at best, even in their own conference. And Rocky Long is no longer around there in San Diego State running those defenses there. So some very good points in terms of that matchup. And again, He likes the under 59 in that matchup. Doug, any thoughts on this contest?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Kyle on this one. I like the under as well. Slight, more different reasons. One of the things that I've talked about here, and I think in other places, is the Pac-12 being a more physical football conference. Okay, and that is a big reason, I believe, why they're having the year that they're having, just collectively as a group, especially in non-conference games. So with that, even though the two teams are 8-2 over when they played in Pullman in recent years, I think in both situations, running the ball, Oregon State plays bully ball. Okay. They just come right at you with that big offensive line that's very, very good, and they just dare you to stop them. Some quarterback issues, no question about it. You mentioned about DJU. I think his ceiling is actually what we're seeing. Okay. I mean, he's an okay quarterback. Whatever he did as a freshman was an anomaly. Okay. And this is this is who he is. He's going to be good sometimes and not good other times. I really like the Washington State passing game. I like that they brought it back, but this is also a more physical defense, and also their running game tends to be a little bit more physical, but they're still taking some of the same Leach principles from before, which is determine how many guys are in the box, and that determines if it's a run or a pass. So from this standpoint, I like Kyle said, I think they'll move the ball. Okay, we'll see that, but I think both defenses will do the job, and I think we'll get an under because of it.
Yeah, Doug, I had a small lean toward Washington State. And then, like Kyle just alluded to, looking inside the numbers and seeing that Oregon State has amassed 12 sacks already. And Cam Ward has proven when you give him time to throw, he's a very effective quarterback. Unfortunately, that hasn't always been the case in his career, especially last year. So that's going to be a key component for Washington State. They're totally capable of winning this game. It's going to be all matter on their pass protection, in my estimation. I don't think the running game is going to make a difference either way. But, I mean, again, if they can protect Cam Ward, they'll have an excellent opportunity to win this game and stay in it throughout. And you mentioned the 8-2 over in Pullman in the last 10. And you also mentioned Coach Leach. I mean, remember, at least half of those games were with him at the helm, and they were playing that air raid offense, similar to what they're doing now, but not quite as pass heavy as before. So, again, any further thoughts, Kyle?
Yeah, one more thought here that I should have mentioned to start with, but Cam Ward, there's the other reason that they really need to protect him. He's had major fumbling issue. If you look at some of the advanced stats, he has fumbled way more than the average quarterback. Oregon State has already forced 5 fumbles this year. So if it's close at the end of the game, that's something that could be a concern for Washington State, is whether Cam Ward turns the ball over that way.
All right, so there you have it. Some good points made by both of these guys. And reviewing again, Doug likes Memphis plus the 6 over Missouri. Kyle likes the Oregon State and Washington State game under 59. Let me get to my game, and I'll try to do this as quickly as possible, although I got a lot of data here to run through. So if I talk quickly, folks, don't feel free to ask me any questions you want in terms of this matchup in the comment section of our video on the archive at Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel. Mississippi State at South Carolina, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time start. South Carolina right now is 6-point favorite, and the total 48.5. This is a Mississippi State team that played 2 games versus FBS opponents, Arizona and LSU, and they've allowed 340 and 367 yards passing in each of those contests. So they haven't exactly held up. They somehow came away with a win against Arizona. A lot of that was attributed to their +5 turnover differential in that game. So both ranked the foes in Georgia and North Carolina, number 17 and number 1, as South Carolina faced, and they amassed 525 yards of passing in those contests. And the other game that they played was against an FCS opponent in Furman. I'm not sure if they have a stronger strength of schedule than Memphis, but I would guess that they do. But in any event, they threw for 463 yards in that game. And Spencer Rattler off to a pretty good start, being that he's faced some very stiff competition out of the gates. So Mississippi State inability to stop the pass, and South Carolina's ability to get chunk plays and a lot of yards passing. Keep that in mind because I'll get to why that's important. Now, Mississippi State, they're in a transformation. We talked about this last week, getting away from the pass-oriented offense of Coach Leach, and their defensive coordinator takes over, and he wants to reinvent the wheel. Hires a new offensive coordinator. They ran so far this year. Their offensive plays, 56.8% of their offensive plays have been run plays. They have a veteran quarterback in Will Rogers, who is a proven passer, okay? But he's been out of sorts. And I got to believe it has to do with the transition and the verbiage and the new scheme of this offense because his first 2 games, he's only completing 59.5% of his passes. First 3 games, I should say, 492 yards, 5 touchdowns. He hasn't thrown a pick yet, to his credit. But comparatively, you look at what he's done the last 2 years, he completed over 71% of his passes, 8,713 yards, 70 touchdowns, and 17 interceptions. You know what I say, Doug? Let the kid throw the ball. South Carolina's pass defense has allowed 622 yards in the 2 games against FBS opponents. The whole thing here is if they let Will Rogers be Will Rogers in this game and get away from the run-heavy offense in this matchup, because it's already been proven you could throw the ball on South Carolina, I am going to go over the total in this game. And one other note, South Carolina went under 54 in the 24-14 loss at Georgia last week. Since last year, following an under, the game after, 6-0 to the over, 73 points per game. Give me this game to go over the total of 48.5. That's Mississippi State, South Carolina, over 48.5. Kyle, you're a totals guy. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would lean the over in this game. My projection was higher than that. I didn't bet the total here, but that would certainly be my lean. I tell you, I can't believe Mississippi State has made this drastic of a change. You know, I understand that they wanted to change it a bit, but you recruited these specific types of players for a long time. And all at once, you just want to completely change it up. I think it's super difficult to do that and be successful. And Mississippi State's defense, glaring weakness in the secondary. They are really bad in the secondary. Not to say Jaden Daniels isn't a good quarterback, but Jaden Daniels was just carving them up last week. You know, I think this is a team in Mississippi State that's going to give up quite a few points in the SEC this year. Now, Spencer Rattler can be very inconsistent. You know, you don't know exactly what you're going to get from him, but he's been pretty good so far this year. He had some turnovers, questionable decisions there against Georgia, but I don't need to tell you guys, Georgia, Mississippi State secondary, a big difference between those 2 secondaries. So it should be a lot easier.
He threw for 256 against Georgia, too.
He honestly played pretty well in that game. He did make some questionable decisions in that game, but he played well, and I think overall he's played better than expected so far this year. And really, even if Mississippi State wants to run the football quite a bit, South Carolina is not great at stopping the run either. They're a little bit smaller than the average team along the defensive line. I think the difference as far as the side, South Carolina is amazing on special teams. You know, they come up with these, you know how Beamer teams are. They come up with these blocked punts, amazing field goals. If I were taking a side, I'd take South Carolina. I don't trust Mississippi State enough with this change. Like Ross said, the game against Arizona, they probably should have lost. And Arizona's really not been very good. So I trust South Carolina a little bit more. My leans would be South Carolina in the over.
Yeah, and Arizona torched them too in their passing game. It's just that they beat themselves in that game. Doug, let the kid throw the ball or no?
I would say so. And here's the problem, though. My best explanation I could give right now for what I have to say, I would just say ditto to what Kyle said. But no, I'll go a little further, okay, than that. From the standpoint, I'm a huge proponent of, I have no idea what Mississippi State is doing. They have eroded Rogers' confidence, okay, to throw the ball. They don't give him the ball. You know, when you're used to having the ball in your hands and making all the decisions, because that's what you do in a Mike Leach offense, and then you're stripped of that ability, you know, I mean, that's got to be very confusing, okay, even for a veteran player. So you have that, like you said, their secondary, the Bulldogs secondary is not good. Spencer Rattler, I'm not saying he's playing as well as he did his first year at Oklahoma, but if you go back to his last 6 or 7 games of last season and then continue with what's gone on, he's a good quarterback. Okay. I mean, you talk about, I think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. Does he occasionally make mistakes? Does he make some boneheaded plays? Yeah. But you know what? You see a lot of that out of guys that are throwers. Okay. The guys that just, daredevils, he'll run around and do all that stuff. I think I think South Carolina takes this one, no problem, easily wins by double digits in this one.
Yeah. Spencer Rattler, especially against a pass defense like this, should have a field day. Should have no excuses. I can give him a pass a little bit. Like Kyle said, he made some questionable decisions in the loss to Georgia, which, by the way, South Carolina had him on the ropes in the first half. But that's against a Georgia defense. We're talking a whole different animal here. So, again, our official picks, once again, is Doug is on the Memphis Tigers, plus the 6 over Missouri. Kyle likes the Oregon State-Washington State game to go under 59. I'm going over 48.5 in the Mississippi State and South Carolina game. Doug, tell the folks how you've been doing of late over at Doc Sports and what's going on this weekend.
Well, this weekend we have I got a 9-play card coming out this weekend. 4 in college, 5 in the NFL all together from that. So looking forward to some big results. Have some best bets in each of those 2 sports. The prop bets continue to do extremely well. 24-11. Even had a loss that would make Kyle and Ross proud. I had Blake Snell to get a victory against Colorado, and he threw 7 no-hit innings and didn't get it against the second worst road team in baseball. But you know what? That is baseball. So, but yeah, 24-11, up over $3,300 right there. And baseball, 5 in a row the last 2 days, 54 and 30, 54 and 30, 64.2%. So I'm going to just keep riding this baseball right to the end of the regular season and look to duplicate last year's postseason that we'll talk about at another time.
I don't mean to rub this in, but when things are going good for you, you're living right, and everything goes your way. I had the Padres -1.5 on the run line in that game. It was 0-0 going into the bottom of the 9th, and Xavier Bogaerts hits a 2-run homer. So, yeah, very nice. Anyway, Kyle, tell the folks what you got going on over at Gamblers World this weekend and your outstanding college football record. And not that the NFL's that bad, as you went 61% there as well last year.
Yeah, I had a 3-2 weekend last weekend in college football. Guys, that I won't go on too long of a rant here, but I do just want to say, for people who are watching the video, keep in mind that really looking at the long term is the best way to go about this. One weekend to the next is not the way. Ross and Doug, I know, are the same way. That I want to look at and zoom out, see how you've done over a span of seasons and years, not of days and weeks. Earlier in the day last week, I lost my first play. I couldn't believe how many people were complaining, like, this is the worst day ever. This is horrible. Then we finished with a 3-2 day. And, it's just one of the negatives of this industry is you could go 73-33 like I have now in my last 106 college football plays. If I went 0-3 in the next 3, then everybody would think I'm terrible. It is what it is. We know how it goes, but keep in mind, everybody that's buying, you're really better off if you're trying to buy long-term and ride with somebody, get their plays right away, and realize that no matter who it is, they're going to have ups and downs. So 73-33, the last 106 college football plays. I do have a play up for Friday and 4 so far up for Saturday. So looking forward to that. Hopefully another good weekend there.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Kyle. Unfortunately, in our business, it's what have you done for me lately? And bettor's minds, what have you done for me yesterday? And you're exactly right. I mean, too many people out there, what they do is they comb the internet to see who the hot handicappers are in recent days, and they catch them at the tail end of a win streak. And then they complain and they go on to the next guy, and it goes so on and so on. So that's why if you go to gamblersworld.net right now, $99 for a 3-day package, $175 for a 7-day package. It's still not long term, okay? But we're going to give you an additional $50 in credit to use at any time. On top of that, you can get a 1-month plan for $399, and our college football and NFL packages separately are $599 each. If you combine the two, football all annual, we're talking $899, a savings of $200 by purchasing them both together. Kyle just told you what his college football record is since the beginning of last year. Now, I have to do something different here, Kyle. I agree with everything you said, but right now, allow me to just zoom in on what I've done recently, okay? If you don't mind, because I had my 14-game win streak end last night as I had the Arizona and San Francisco game under 7.5, and it finished 7-1. Okay, so 14-1 with my last 15 in all sports, 17-2 with my last 19 in all sports. Last week in college football, 7-0. Top play winner on the Florida Gators plus 6.5 over Tennessee. Also, I had in NFL 5-0, and I had the Dallas Cowboys as a 10-star top play or 5 units top play as well. So 12-0 with my football picks last week. And I know that when I mentioned this on an earlier show, one of the comments was, I'm not watching the show anymore. This guy's concentrated on what he did last week and not what he's doing this week. Well, here's for you, okay? I'm going to win again this week. I told you I was going to kick ass last week. I'm going to do the same this week. And you know what, buddy, if I went 0-12, would you continue to listen? That sort of seems like, I don't know, it doesn't make sense, does it, Doug? Kyle, help me out on this one. I don't get the logic. And you know what, folks? If you're running a business and things are going well, you promote it. It's called Business 101. You know, we do this for a living. We're not just 3 jokers getting together once a week trying to throw darts at a dartboard, okay? This is our livelihood. This is what we take seriously. So invest long-term in us. Doug, you could also get his weekly, monthly, annual packages over at DocSports.com as well. So, all right. Don't forget to subscribe, and there's a like button right underneath. And click on that like button, folks. I'm not going to yell and scream like Jesse does. He's the only one who gets away with that. I can't. So just click on that like button. It's just a small token of the appreciation for the work, time, effort, preparedness, and quality of content we put together on this show to make you a smarter sports better today than yesterday. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. And I want to wish both of you to have a fantastic weekend and knock them dead. And we'll be back, us 3, next Thursday. Doug will be with us on Monday, me and Doug. And tomorrow we're going live, folks, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. Tune in. It's your opportunity to ask questions and comments and get them answered immediately instead of making a comment on an archive. And when somebody finally gets to them, they do. This is your opportunity to speak out to and tune in live. So 10:30 a.m. Eastern time sharp. Of course, that archive will also be at our channel. It just will be under the live setting. Okay, so until the next time, for Doug Upstone, Kyle Hunter, and Ross Benjamin, take care and God bless, folks.